So I'm not going to talk about switch condition monitoring as a system because I showed that yesterday. What I'd like to do today is to explain the process from moving from a fix and find mentality to a predict and prevent mentality, which is in line with what's been said here today. The presentations here earlier, just before we came on, was talking about changes, processes, and what I'd like to do is to use monitoring to improve the reliability of the asset, to improve safety, and make sure there's less time on track. So what I'm going to do is to give you a presentation about ARTC. They're moving from a fix and find maintenance on switch condition to a predict and prevent system. So this all started with a presentation, but what I'd like to do is to say ARTC I'm focusing on the Hunter Valley region only at this stage. It's not classed as a train operator, but actually an infrastructure owner and operator. During recent times, there have been brought in initiatives to improve performance and reliability. This paper will focus on transforming the switch condition monitoring side. Background. So basically it goes back to 2013. So it's been quite a long process. The first presentation, and then we moved into introduction to switch condition initiatives. The process originally was to be a quick win. However, it's taken a passage of time. That has been successful, where in some cases other operators have taken on switch condition monitoring, put it in place, and think it's going to be the panacea, or as I've heard several times today, utopia. It's not. It's a lot of work to get it in place, to drive it and get the benefits. Once it's in, the benefits will come with it. So as you can see from the slide here, it dates back to October 2013 and goes through to October 2019. The first presentation was in a hotel in Sydney, to a member of the staff of ARTC, and additional presentations went on through 2014. As you can see on the slide, 2014, a tender was released for a trial. We were successful in that first trial, which was the monitoring of 25 switch machines. And then 2017, we then had to extend the trial. Why? Because ARTC was still thinking about how they was going to use the system, were the benefits coming from the system. So I worked with them, the guys in Ferrum worked with them, and then we explained further on what we did. So I went in 2018, I came to Hunter Valley again, to Newcastle, and the discussion was, can we extend the trial again? Yes, so we extended the trial again. And in 2018, August, another tender was released. So we were now having to compete with other suppliers for our switch condition monitoring system. Fortunately, we won, and we partnered with a company called SJM Rao, based in Sydney, who are also working with ARTC on other maintenance and installation work. The job for us as VAE was too big, so we decided to use a partner that had the capability to do the install, do the design, documentation, and all the safety requirements. The contract was awarded in January 2019 to roll out additional switch machine monitoring. In May 2019, we commenced with installation, and in August 2019, we completed that installation and handed it over to ARTC. Then we migrated portion 6, because there's 6 separable portions. Portion 6 was the trial we already had running. That was successfully migrated over to the system. So the next slide shows the system, and you can see that you've got 5 locations there. They're the first 5 locations we set up with 25 machines being monitored. We have a data logger sending the data back by 3G, which I'll cover in a second, back to the UK to a server, and then ARTC staff access that with their PCs, their laptops, or web browsing devices. As we heard from the gentleman sitting on the stage here previously, the younger brethren are able to take that information and use it. They're using smartphones, iPads to get that data. As you can see in the slide here, it's basically we're using the switch machine as the sensor for the whole of the turnout. The motor's driving across, we're measuring the current, or we're going to be measuring oil pressures in a new installation, but we're monitoring a whole range of switch machines by simply using a CT, data logger, sending it back. The next installation will be in 2 weeks' time, when we will install a VAE Unistar HR switch machine, which is using a module within the switch machine, and that's going to send 3G data back to the server. So that will take the direction and the pressures being generated within the switch machine every movement, and it will also measure the oil levels. Now, moving on to where we come to, which is the change process. And this can always be difficult because there's various steps that's required. As you can see in the slide there, there's the introduction, the resistance, the delivery challenge. The delivery challenge is always, if you look at any change diagram, it's normally called chaos. For us, in working with ARTC, it wasn't. It was a challenge, but there was challenges on both sides. And the adoption, transforming, and integration moving forward are the steps leading from a fix and find to a predict and prevent. And if you look down the other side, there is the change influence, and there is various stages there we work together to influence that change to move on to the next step. Various steps, as it says there. There's the introduction of monitoring, the tendering. So this is the introduction of various steps, and the order, trial monitoring, utilising the monitoring, the system, seeing the benefits. Nobody's going to reinvest or increase investment if they're not seeing the benefits. So the work is, with me, is not just selling the system, it's actually working with the user to see the benefits and get the benefits so that they can build a business case to move on. Me, if I sell a system and that's the end of it, we're dead. We need to be looking at what other assets we can bring into the business, what other assets we can monitor to improve the system, improve reliability, improve life cycle. So that's the way we went. We now move on to the rolling out, and then we're looking to move forward. The resistance. Well, everybody knows there are established customs and practices in every network. And there's always operated by this company is, oh, we've always done it this way, we'll always do it that way. You know, we're set in our ways. We heard from the guys here, there's changes afoot, there's changes happening. This was wonderful to hear within ARTC. When we started to talk about monitoring, people were taking it on. And for me, it's a bit like selling health insurance. You need somebody to see the light at the end of the day. When you need it, it's there. So we worked with them to prove it and get it accepted. The other one is, you can see there, that people become frightened of change, new technology. And I think that the younger people in ARTC readily adopted this. I've had some strange conversations around the world. Why do we want it? Why do we need it? We've always, I don't understand this new technology. Here in ARTC, they adopted that technology and got into it. The other thing is people are frightened, their job's at risk. Oh, we're bringing in new technology, it means my job is gone. It's not. With new technology, it means you can see what you're going to fix. You can fix it. You can then see that it's fixed. With an iPad, with a web browsing application, you can stand there beside the track, radio somebody, get the switch moved, and see whether the work you've done has corrected the fault, whether it's made it better or worse. One of the major things that happens is a lot of switch maintenance is done at night. People just want to get home or get off the shift. When it's operated the next morning, it doesn't work properly. With the system, you can see whether it's done, you can see the benefits. There are railways around the world that are using this because the window of maintenance has got smaller and smaller. One of our major customers is Dubai Metro. They're looking to reduce their window now from 5 or 6 hours down to 3 hours a night maintenance. So they need to know what they're going out to do, and they've got to be able to predict when there's going to be a failure. The lack of knowledge is another one. We worked together. I made regular visits to ARTC, done regular presentations. Also, what we did is we supply weekly reports and monthly reports, telling them what we've seen in the system, so that it helps them build the knowledge and build the confidence. Delivery. The calls, new technology, live alarms, information overload. Generally, when people adopt a system, they say, we're going to have a monitoring system. They haven't thought about the processes with the information that's coming in. Who's going to use it? How it's going to be used? How they're going to harness that? And I try to help that transition through that. You know, generally, organisations have not planned the change. They have not resourced for the change and has not understood what is going to happen, and the staff are not well informed. In ARTC, there were some of these issues, but generally, there was some minor lack of clarity or designated champion for driving the process. There was people in ARTC that were interested. Every time we met, every time we spoke on the telephone, there was drive for it, change for it. So the change took longer, but it's gone the right way. We work together to support them. We work together to give them the information. As you can see from the slide, you've got a track plan, you've got charts, you've got tables, a lot of information coming in, and people have to know how to understand that and how to use it best. We work with them to train it, and it was always accepted by ARTC staff. Adoption. You've got to learn how to use the system. We had meetings to discuss how to use the system. We sometimes had WebExes. We sent reports, and it's quite funny. We'd sent a number of reports. I came to Newcastle and said, we've sent the reports. Nothing's happened. We had this. Oh, yeah, we knew about that. The system was out for maintenance. So I said, look, if you talk to us, tell us what you're doing, the system's going into maintenance, we can help you. So thereon, there was dialogue between the UK and ARTC Hunter Valley of what was going on. We then explained to them how to use the data, how to predict maintenance, how to look at what's going to be a potential failure. We also spoke about several meetings about new processes, what they needed to look at, where other organisations are successfully using it, and where other organisations are not successfully using it. And we said to them that, by developing the new process to use the system, you will actually reduce your maintenance cost and you will improve the life cycle of your assets. Start to predict failures will help. At the moment, the ARTC are moved from the failure mode at the bottom of the chart on the P2F curve, coming out to P1, starting to move up to P2. To get up to a full predictive system will take a lot longer and a lot more experience, but we're there for the long game. Information, as you can see here on this slide here, there's a number of tables showing those switches that we was monitoring and the performance, which is around the start of the original installation of the trial. If you move on to the next slide, you can see what has happened. The number of irregularities come down, the number of alarms have come down, and the whole situation is looking better. They're using the information, they're getting the results. As you can see from the slide here, this is a switch movement that's gone into extra time and has hit the alarms. That's an indication that that switch needs adjustment or lubrication. If it's in the middle of the swing, the time is increased. That would then lead to a total failure. So that using that information, ARTC could see what was happening. Moving on to the next one, you can see here what has happened partway across. The switch has gone into obstruction. The motor's carried on driving by the signalling system. We have continued to monitor that system against the green line at the bottom, which is the reference curve. They could see that was an obstruction. They can then go into the system after a few swings and see whether that obstruction is cleared, because it could be a piece of coal. If it's clear, they don't need to send somebody out. They can see what happened before by a few swings. So you've got a situation, you can see the history either side of that particular problem. In this example here, you can see that the system, the lower green line was when the reference curve was set. You can see progressively the current has risen, coming up towards the alarm level, and then is continued to work harder and exceeded the alarm level, and you notice the time has gone out. That will then If that's exceeded the time limit set in the system, that will come up as an alarm and somebody needs to look at it urgently. This one here, you can see that there is electrical fault with the motor and the switch machine has come on. They went out and investigated the situation. But they could see that that was a difference between a lubrication problem, adjustment problem. Clearly see by the state of the red line, that's an electrical problem and the motor needs to be investigated. This is showing the integration. What we was looking at is for a joined up system for the maintenance planning team to have the information, for the maintenance team to have the information, and for the train operators to have information, or system operators. With the system it allows people that are on call to go in. They will get an email saying there's a fault. They then can go into the system. They can then look at the problem, and then they can get the right team together, and in some cases, even the right equipment required to rectify the fault. Transforming. So what would happen is we started at the bottom of the pyramid, and we're now working up. So what did they do? We needed to appoint staff. We need to look at asset management. We need to build an asset register. We need to use the generated data. We start to predict failures and the decision to expand the system, decide which locations, tender and roll out. That was the stages we spoke about. That's the stages in the transformation. So the rollout phase. What happened was there was a tender. SJM won the tender. We started with several portions 1 and 2 and integration of portion 6. As we said before, happened in 2019 and was completed by August. ARTC had looked at the information, looked at their critical assets they wanted to monitor and decided which sections they wanted to do. We implemented that. Full rollout is on the waiting to be ordered. That'll be a total of 253 switch machines to be monitored, 106 locations, and own dedicated hosted Roadmaster server. So, where next, moving forward? Other infrastructure monitoring applications. We're talking about monitoring powers. Some areas, because of the very remote locations, they may want to monitor the powers. That can be current, can be voltage. We're also looking at potential for track circuit monitoring. We monitor various types of track circuit, AC, DC, vane relay, high voltage, HVI, EBI track circuits, so we can work with them on that. Level crossings. We're rolling out a big program in Melbourne through MTM and Siemens on the level crossing removals, but they're also upgrading them with monitoring. We're looking to talk to ARTC about that. They're looking to form a big data storage, or as it's called, data warehouse. That depends on what part of the world you're talking about. But the idea is using the applications from fixed infrastructure monitoring with rolling stock monitoring, climatic data, and train movements, so you can then know what's going on in your system all of the time and any of the time. So with that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank ARTC for allowing me to present this case study, and especially the guys in Newcastle that I've worked with over the past 6 years for their support, for their interest in switch condition monitoring from that first meeting in 2013 until my next meeting with him, which will be when I'm back for Osrail. I'd also like to thank SJM Rail, who did a fantastic job installing the equipment on several portions 1 and 2. They worked fantastically to get it completed in the time constraints applied by ARTC. It was safe, it was conducted well, and delivered on time. And also, I'd like to thank my colleagues from VAE RS up here in Bathurst for allowing me to demonstrate my equipment here yesterday. And finally, I'd like to thank PWI for giving me a chance to explain the transition from fix and find to predict and prevent, and you for listening to my presentation. Thank you very much.